I would say that the pandemic has been like a dividing line for everybody, and it's strange because I think everyone has endings and new beginnings in their lives, but it's very rare for them all to coincide, for everyone to have one at the same time.
My colleagues and mentors were all in the same boat, and it was this great equalizing moment. It's just kind of scary. It's like, will the music go on? And I think it will. I really think it will, and people miss it enough, but we have to wait it out, and that's really difficult.
Really nervous about like singing again, because I kind of, after my final year coming to like such an abrupt end, I'd been like, oh, this is really weird, and hadn't really sung anywhere near as much as I had been. And so then I was just nervous that I wouldn't get back into the routine, and at that point no one knew what was going on with the pandemic, so I was like, will I ever be able to sing again? Like, who knows what's going to happen to music and like live performing. So that was a huge moment, just being able to come here and like regain that kind of confidence in music, but also like in myself.
A big message that we were seeing in the arts community or a big message that wasn't being broadcast, but that was sort of, we sort of picked up by osmosis, was that we and what we were offering the world was not essential.
There became that essential service only open, and of course, like, we couldn't be open probably when we didn't have the vaccine and you want to keep people safe, but just the idea that we weren't an essential service, and yet somehow I always felt like we need it.
Music is innate to all of us, and we have to appreciate that and cherish it in order to understand and respect its huge essential value to us as people.
The arts industry collapsed, and the first thing that everyone did in lockdown was turn to the arts, was turn to movies and books and music and things that they could find solace in and find escape in, and yet the people who were creating those works were left to rebuild their lives by themselves.
I just remember when the pandemic started, it felt like music was so easily given up on, and only musicians were left fighting for it, and it felt almost scary in a way.
I think there's probably been two extremes during COVID. There's either people who are going, oh, the arts are stupid, why are we paying these musicians to, not do anything right now? They don't need to live. And then all the people who have been sitting at home bored out of their minds and have discovered that they like listening to more music than they thought they did, or they've been watching a lot of movies and going, wow, I really like John Williams, and so maybe at the other end of this there will be more of a market.
it was strange. I remember the first couple performances. I actually had like performance anxiety for the first time in years.
It was so strange because in a way it felt so natural to just be, going on stage and playing a concert.
I remember being like, oh my God, I'm nervous. And not only am I nervous, but there's 20 people in the audience. Like, why am I nervous for this gig? And it's just because I hadn't exercised that muscle in months.
My mind was just like, wow, I haven't done this in so long, and it felt weird to be playing with people, a little farther than how far apart we are right now. Performing is something that I've done since I was 5, and so in a way it felt natural and good to be doing that. And in another sense, I think it was confusing because I felt I think I felt the weight of it more.
There was this relief of knowing that that's where I needed to be.
Having gone through quarantine and waiting for an opportunity like this after such a long period of time, I was more nervous than I ever was in my entire life performing. And it was the most relief I had, because when I got on stage I was like, oh, this is what I'm doing. This is what I have to do.
I just find it interesting that a lot of times when composers, or the world in which those composers are living in, is coming apart, they write such hopeful and generous and beautiful music. And I think that's a good lesson to dealing with this stuff, because, it's happening whether we want it to or not.
Something the pandemic taught me was that I may not always have a second chance to do something, and now every chance I have, I feel like I'm so lucky.
On my last concert, I remember giving a little spiel before playing, I think I was playing 7 Beethoven bagatelles, and that was my last gig, and then I was going to go home. And I took a moment to thank Bert for having invited me, and thanking the lab team. And I broke down in tears before I sat down to play like 15 minutes of Beethoven, because it hit me at which point I was so close in July and August of 2020 to packing it up and not coming back to this. Honestly, if Bert hadn't called when he called, probably a couple days later, I would have started a serious process of job searching and of completely pivoting towards another field.
I think it's good to be comfortable with uncertainty, because even when we feel like we're certain, we're just sort of fooling ourselves.